It's alright.
Right.
Yeah, good song to come in after.
Oh, you like this one?
Good song to come in after.
I've steered clear of the old country for you, Belmonte.
That's alright.
Tell you in.
So what we'll do it in we'll do it in a few brackets. Have a talk, then play a song. Have a talk, play a song. That's alright.
Go nuts.
Yeah. Up to you. I leave again on, what's today's date? What are we at?
28th.
So I leave in 10 days?
Yeah, right.
Is that to Japan, did you say?
Yeah.
Yep.
Japan?
Got many comments or likes before that Olympics thing that you were doing?
Yeah,
We're
lots.
going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, lots. Yeah, it's
It's almost weird that it's not an Olympic sport.
Well, that,
yeah, you say
especially
it from
when-
people who know what's going on, but then people who, you know, don't
Especially
know
when there's so many countries that play it.
And turn this mic a bit, or?
Yeah, you can, it's a pretty sensitive mic, so you only speak about this far from it, and you will both be able to use it. I had a look last night on YouTube, you playing Pete Weber.
Say it one more time, sorry, I had my headphones.
No, you're right. And I can't see when you got them on. No, I was watching last night on YouTube when you played Pete Weber.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
The January one.
Masters?
Yep.
Yep. That was a fun tournament.
Yeah, the commentator was like, Pete Weber will get there, and you'll beat him.
They took that completely out of context, unfortunately.
When you got the 14 split in the semi-final, I watched as well.
Oh, yep. That was the tournament.
pick it up?
I did.
Nice. And then you did it again the next time, and just missed it.
Yeah, I missed it. You don't believe that too many times.
I watched a clip the other day on that side.
The first one I ever watched,
Tenpin.
Oh, yeah, I just did a shot.
first one I ever watched of you bowling was when you had that bad eye.
Oh, yeah, I had a sty in my eye.
I've had those, they do it.
I can do it.
Do you want to keep your eye on these levels, Cody?
Yep.
And Millie,
You're at
I've got one to go. So I'll go to air now. It is 107.5 FM, broadcasting live out of 77 Kite Street, and there's a classic by the Black Sorrows on the midday variety lunch. Good afternoon if you've just joined us. We are very fortunate enough to have the world #1 10-pin bowler in the studio, and before I introduce him, I'll say g'day to Jamie Steadman, who's going to become a pretty regular segment on this particular radio program. G'day Jamie, how are you, mate?
G'day mate, g'day everyone. How's it going?
And Jamie's from the Orange City Life, and he's going to be doing a local sports wrap each and every week with a bit of luck, either in the studio or on the phone, so we look forward to that. And this other guy that I've got in the studio at the moment with me, now Velmo, I've always wanted to do this because I've watched so much on YouTube of you, in particular America. They always introduce you like this: from Orange, New South Wales, Jason Belmonte. Good afternoon, mate. How are you?
Good afternoon, mate. Cheers for the intro. Made me feel like I was back in the US.
Yeah, well, I don't do a bad American accent. Now, mate, I want to talk to you about your very successful career. First of all, I want to talk to you about way back when you were a little boy, when you first picked up a bowling ball, because we all know how good you are at it, and I want to talk to you about when you first picked up a bowling ball.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, the story of how I started is, it's no secret, Mum and Dad have owned the bowling centre since I was born. So instead of taking me to daycare or anything like that, they used to just bring me to the bowling centre, give me a pair of shoes and a ball, and tell me to rack off, get out of their hair while they work. So my first ball, I don't remember it, but there are pictures. I was about 18 months old when I first started to bowl on my own, pick the ball up, carry it to the line and kind of roll it down as best as I could, and yeah, I never really stopped doing it.
Were you using bumpers when you were 18 months old?
There were no bumpers back in 1985, unfortunately, and there were no light bowling balls, so that's kind of where the whole two-handed style came from, is the ball was 10 pounds So a 18-month-old little kid, it's pretty difficult to roll a ball with one hand with 10 pounds in it. So I developed a two-handed kind of technique.
And it's a very good technique because it obviously works for you. How do you feel about the two-handed bowler as you are, and some of them talking about saying you've got an advantage and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, I don't think it's a lie. I create more revolutions. I create more power. So it certainly is an advantage. But the way that I like to kind of describe it is it's a man-made advantage. I don't have any gadgets on my body, no braces, no wrist guards or anything like that. That's given me that advantage. It's just a technique that I developed out of pure luck, to be honest, since as a kid. And I've been able to generate consistency in harnessing that power.
Now, for those that don't understand the scoring of 10-pin bowling, the maximum you can score is 300. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. How many times have you done that?
I have bowled a perfect game 72 times in my career.
72 times. Jeez, that is incredible. And where did you do your first one? In Orange?
No, unfortunately, I was so close. I always wanted to bowl my first one at home, to have that sentimental first one ever. But I was actually competing, attempting to try out for the state youth team. Well, actually, it was a junior team. So I was 16 years old, and I was trying to make the under-18 state team, and I had 9, 10, 11, 12 in a row trying to qualify for the state team. And that game kind of elevated me into the state team, and I'll never forget it. The first one, you'll never forget your first.
No, exactly right. How long have you officially been called a pro bowler? How long have you been on the tour?
I joined the PBA tour in 09-10, so that's going back 5-6 years.
I probably should have asked you off there. So you still are number one?
I still am number one, yep. I was ranked number one for the 2013 and 14 seasons, and currently leading the 2015 standings. So still a few months left, but hopefully the pins keep falling for me, and I'll retain that number one for another year.
And Jamie, if I can bring you into this, mate, have you got a question for Belmo?
I've got heaps of questions.
All right, well,
I want to know how your nerves, Belmo, how you, especially the first one, you're standing over your first potential 300 game. How did you calm yourself down? Because I imagine that would be a big part of trying to stay or trying to reach the 300.
Yeah, well, I mean, my first one, I was just a teenager, so, my mental game was pretty much that of a 16-year-old adolescent kid.
Just ripped into it.
Just ripped into it. I wasn't really worried about it. I was more, focused on what I would look like after I bowled it. I wanted to look cool bowling my 300 game. So, the difference between me 15 years ago to today is I'm a very different bowler, different person.
Yeah.
So I feel like now it's all about, like you said, calming your nerves down, kind of bowling in between heartbeats almost. You want to really slow everything down and just focus on your process rather than the result.
Well, that's where we were going, so that was my point, is as you get closer to it, so you're sitting up in the 7th and 8th frame and you're knocking them over, you've only bowled 8 balls at that stage, so
right.
It's not too much, not too bad. Is the pressure rising within, or are you able now, being the balls and one, to just keep going through the process, doing your thing?
Well, now the perfect game, the way that I look at it, it's obviously an achievement that I'm proud of. I've managed to do it quite a few times now. And when you're competing in a tournament, you have to remember that bowling is based over multiple games,
okay.
Lots and lots of games. So 300, you get 300 pins towards your score, which is obviously fantastic. And that's kind of how I like to view it now. It's a great achievement, but more importantly, it gave me 300 pins to add to my tally. So when you get to the 7th, 8th, 9th in a row, you're not necessarily worried too much about, I'm going to bowl a perfect game.
Yeah, okay.
You're just trying to continue on that momentum so you can get those extra pins to either catch the leaders or stay in front of the guys behind you.
Yeah, cool. I had not considered that.
Right, yeah, well, it's just one game out of 60. So more perfect games you bowl, the more likely you are going to be at the top.
So the closer you get, when you get up to 7 strikes, 8 strikes, 9 strikes, do you start to get nervous or don't even think about it?
Not now, no, like I was just saying, it's more about the fact that I'm just trying to build on that particular game. So I like to stay in the present when I'm competing. There's no point looking at the next few shots because they haven't happened yet, and there's no point looking back at the shots you've already done because you can't change them. So you kind of stay in the moment. If it's the 8th frame, then that's the only thing I'm thinking about is just bowling my best shot in the 8th frame, and if that strikes, then that's what I do in the 9th frame. If I'm lucky enough to keep going to the 12th, then the 12th shot is merely just one more delivery throughout the day.
Now, obviously, mate, somebody of your high status being the number 1 bowler, you don't have a handicap, do you?
No, I don't have a handicap.
Just perfect?
It's a 0 handicap. But on tour, we don't have any handicaps on the Pro Tour. And any competitions that I do compete in the Wednesday night doubles league here in town that I bowl with my dad and my brother-in-law James, we do get given handicaps, and the way that it will be based on is because my average is a lot higher than the normal player in town, we will create a new handicap system where I'll still get 0, but see, par in bowling is 200. So if I'm averaging 230 something, then potentially I'm 30-something pins ahead of par. And if you calculate your handicap off 200, I'm actually getting bonus pins against you because you're only getting your handicap based off of 200. So the fairest way to do it is you take the highest average in your league, and that becomes the par score, and everyone gets a handicap based off that person's average. So everyone will get handicap based off 238. So if you average 200, you'll get 38 pins to kick off before, because I technically have a 238 average in league.
238.
So rather than being penalised pins, you start with 0 and everyone else comes up.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I've actually, as you know, Belmo, I'm blind, and I've taken to 10-pin bowling in the last 4 or 5 months, and I have a handicap of 82, which is that any good considering I can't see the pins at the end of the lane?
Let me tell you this, right? I bowl with my eyes closed, and I'd need a whole lot more than 82 pins. So if you've got 82 pins handicap, that's a very low handicap for someone with a disability like yours. I think you should give yourself a pat on the back. It's bloody a great achievement.
I'm going to go into the Disability League that's held in October at the Orange Centre, so we'll see how we go with that. Highest of 175, so I'm trying to get better.
Mate, I'm telling you, I want anyone out there who's listening, go to the bowling centre, throw one shot with your eyes closed and see how you do. I've done it a few times trying to, kind of muck around a little bit, and it is difficult, so good for you.
It is. Now, Belmo, tell us a little bit about your, like going on tour and all the countries you've visited and all those sorts of things.
Right, it's been a very adventure-filled life of mine. I started travelling when I was 16 years old, went to Malaysia and Singapore for the first time, and those were 2 very different countries to Australia. And then that basically kind of, catapulted me into wanting to do that for a living. I was very fortunate enough to bowl a perfect game in Malaysia, and I pocketed 16,000 Aussie dollars for it. So that kind of was the catalyst. I had a big bankroll in my bank account now that I could pay for hotels and air flights and entry fees. So I realised, well, if I bowl a couple more perfect games around the world, I'll be doing quite well.
Did you think you'd made it? I'm on my way.
I thought I was on my way, yeah. But then, that was just one event, and we're playing multiple events per year, and I got a quick slap across the ears at how immature I was in the bowling game around the world. So, of that 16,000, I think I spent probably almost 12 of it losing money, was not bowling very well, and it taught me a bit of a lesson that you can't just hop on a plane, throw a ball down there and expect everything's going to be just like it is in Orange. You've got to work hard, and you've got to practice and be versatile and learn as much as you can about the game to keep up. And because every part of the world, there's little differences about the game. Of course, it's the same length, it's the same width, the same pins, but the way that we oil the lanes are very different in all parts of the world. So you've got to learn how they transition, how you can adjust to it, what equipment to bring, and ultimately, you've got to have your mental game, because these tournaments go for a week, and if you fire for one day, that's fantastic, but you need to fire for 6 days, yeah.
So even if you go well on the first one, you need the consistency there when you're at a big tournament like that.
That's what it's all about, consistency and repeatability.
Exactly right. All right, then we'll go to a song now, Belmo, and we'll be straight back and having a bit more of a chat. Here's Taylor Swift and Blank Space. What happened then?
No, it's the
Oh,
little
still
outro.
going.
It's the little outro
Right,
part.
we're about to go to air. It is 107.5 FM, and there is Blank Space by the one and only Taylor Swift. Good afternoon if you've just joined us. We've still got Jason Belmonte in the studio, the world number one 10-pin bowler around the world. And Belmo, we'll continue on, mate. Tell us about the first pro tournament that you won. Where, when, and things like that, mate.
It was in my rookie season in Long Island, New York, and it was an interesting tournament. The lanes that were oiled that particular week were a little bit different to normal. Generally, you just have a particular pattern laid, and we bowl across that pattern across all the lanes. But this one was an actual split tournament. So we had one lane was oiled with a pattern called the Shark pattern, which is a variety of oil pattern, and then the other lane was oiled with the Viper oil pattern. So you have two professional level lane conditions on the lane that play very differently. One hooks a lot and the other one doesn't hook much at all. So you had to be very versatile that week, and on the television show I finished in the second position for qualification, and I had to go through two of my best mates on the Pro Tour to win my first title. And I'll never forget throwing that last ball down. You got to think about the way I think about it is, I travel from Australia, I leave my family behind, my friends, I leave everything behind to chase a dream, and to actually hold a trophy. The reason why you're leaving home is to win that trophy, and to actually, to get it for the very first time was very emotional. It was very kind of satisfying, and I was lucky enough to have Kimberly, my wife, in the crowd watching me that particular tournament. So it was wonderful to be able to share that experience with her and give her a kiss after I won. And I often look back at YouTube and on the tape recordings that we have of that show and just watch it just for a little bit of nostalgia.
Yeah. Believe me, I watch it plenty. I put it on the big screen at home and I watch them over and over as well. Mate, tell us about the hook you get on the ball. It's unbelievable. Is that just practice, or is there any tips you can give?
There is a little technique into it, yeah. You do have to generate rotation, so a bit like if you think of Warnie with the cricket ball, and when they slow down that ball in the air, you see that ball rotating through the air. Well, the more rotation you get, the more curve and spin you're going to get when that ball was to hit the pitch. So in bowling, it's the same terms. It's the more you spin it, the more you can create that rotation, then the more potential curve that you can get. But just like anything, if you throw the ball too fast, it hasn't got enough time to curve. If you throw it too slow, it's got too much time to curve. So you have to be able to, it's a bit of an algorithm, a bit of a formula. You need to have the right amount of rev rate, rotations, equaled with the right amount of speed. Otherwise, it's no point, spinning the ball at 1,000 revs per second if your speed is also very slow.
I do training on a Wednesday with your mate Jason, and he was telling, our last session we were talking about revs, weren't we, Cody?
Yep.
Yeah, and he was trying to get us to guess what your rev rate was. It's up near 600, is that right?
Yeah, near 600, and that's come down a lot. I mean, I realised that I can still strike very consistently at around 525 to 550 RPMs. When I was younger, it used to be about breaking pins. So, I used to try and throw it harder and faster with more revs, but in the end, you want to be more accurate. So sometimes you have to take a little power off to improve your accuracy, and the more accurate that I've gotten, it now allows me to build that power back up a little bit. So, I'm a firm believer that you always want to be consistent and smooth. You don't want to try and break anything until you get your accuracy down pat.
I'm always amazed at how late it hooks, how late it grabs. Is that combined with the oil? I mean, obviously some lanes it's going to grab a bit quicker or a bit later.
No, you're right. It's actually a combination of a few different things. The oil pattern will cause the length in which the ball will start to curve. So if you oil a lane very short, it has doesn't go down the lane very far. Well, now there's a lot of friction on the lane, so the ball will curve. Obviously, the converse side of that, you oil it long, it's not going to hook nearly as much. But you also have different equipment. So, and I like to compare golf to bowling in this particular instance. You can use a driver off the tee, but you'd want to use a putter on the greens. So some bowling balls are designed to hook on oil, some are designed to go a little straighter in the friction. So you use that combination of your equipment, and then you can also change your release. You know, the more that I change my axis of rotation, the tilt on the ball, and also my rev rate, mixed in with my speed, I can also kind of manipulate where that ball will curve on the lane. Will it curve earlier, later? Will it have a lot of curve, a little curve? Will it be a very angular curve? Will it be more of a slow kind of gradual arc? And all of these particular ways and shapes that the ball can make down the lane through its path, you have to consider when you're throwing a ball on any tournament, any condition, anytime you're rolling the ball.
How much prep goes into prior to a tournament? I mean, a golfer, let's go back to that, they're going to turn up a week out, have their caddies run over the course, and they're going to go out playing different holes, and they might go out and play 15 approach shots into a green from different spots to try and learn where to sit the ball, to let it release, stuff like that. So I assume it's quite similar.
We don't go that early. To bowl a week out from the event, most players will arrive the day before the official practice session. If we feel like we haven't been in this environment, if it's a new place, we might turn up a day earlier just to kind of get a bit of a feel for it. But that's very unlikely. Most of the time we spend our official practice sessions kind of doing that. We get 2 or 3 hours to roam across the bowling centre, bowling on certain lanes with the selected oil pattern for that tournament. Now, with the technology that's out there, Orange tenpin bowl has a machine that goes down the lane. Our oiling machine has the ability to replicate certain oil patterns if given the numbers, the algorithms that the professional tool will use. But the one thing that you have to take into account with that is every bowling centre is different. So I can oil the lanes for this particular pro tournament here in town, practice it for months in advance, and feel like I've got everything lined up and ready to go, fly over to Las Vegas in Nevada and bowl the exact same line that I was in Orange, and the ball could hook 5 times more, or maybe it doesn't hook at all. So every bowling centre has its own little characteristics, much like a golf course. Some greens, some holes just are faster than others because that's just the way the greens are prepared, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it is a little bit touchy, a little bit difficult, because you are learning on the fly through a tournament, but I think that's one of the beauties of bowling.
I was going to say, it kind of makes what you do and how good you are at it carry over more weight.
And that's what a lot of people don't, I appreciate that, but I think a lot of people don't understand that our playing environment, it's why I believe bowling is actually the most difficult sport in the world, because our playing environment is actually invisible. The oil on the lane, we can't see it. So you're bowling in a very much you have no clue what's on that lane. So you throw a delivery, our adjustments are after a delivery is thrown. Where in golf, you can see the water on the left, you can see the bunker to the right, you can feel the wind is coming from behind your left shoulder, so you can make the adjustment for that delivery, for that shot, before you actually hit it. But in bowling, you could be lined up getting strike after strike after strike, and then the oil will change ever so slightly, and you can't see it. So then what you think is a perfect delivery ends up in a split, and you're kind of, again, trying to make those adjustments on the fly, but you've also got to do them in the blind. It's one of the most challenging sports, especially at the professional level, that I can ever stress to anyone. Imagine someone telling you to hit a golf ball straight down the middle, and then after you hit it, you realise there's actually water there. I mean, you wouldn't hit it there if you
had
known
some friends that have done that anyway.
that.
Just smack it down there, so you'll be right. And it goes.
Belmonte, tell us about when you go away. Do you have staff or a manager, or do you look after yourself? And how many balls do you take with you when you go halfway across the Royal?
No, I generally like to look after myself. When I'm in the US, in particular, my good mate Bill O'Neill, he'll do a lot of the booking for me overseas because I'll room with him or I'll travel with him. So there's no point me booking a hire car if he's going to rent one for us, or a hotel. We're all going to stay in the same place. But I like to book my own flights. I like to know where I'm going. I like to know my connection times, and I'm a bit of a hands-on kind of a guy like that. I like to, kind of look after my own affairs when I'm traveling. So that way I know if I get lost, the only person I can blame is myself, not a travel agent. And then to answer your question about how many bowling balls I take, when I'm bowling on the Pro Tour in the US, I'll probably only take, maybe 2 or 3 balls from Australia.
Really?
And then I'll have the luxury of drilling an unlimited amount of bowling balls on the Pro Tour. When I travel internationally, so for example, Next week I'm off to Japan. There we don't have the luxury of drilling an unlimited amount of bowling balls for the pro guys, so I'll have to bring probably 6. It'll be 5 striking balls and my spare balls.
You wouldn't want to bring too many more than that on the aeroplane, would you?
No, they don't like it. The air hostesses and I have had our fights over the years about, excess baggage, and it's difficult to carry those bowling balls on the plane without getting into too much trouble. So,
is it a carry-on bag, or have you got a particular suitcase?
I generally carry my clothes on the plane, so you can fit them into a nice little bag into a carry-on, put the bowling balls underneath, and away they go. But it's I'll tell you what, if carrying a 15-pound ball, if you can carry a 15-pound ball for a day and think, this isn't too heavy, try carrying 6 of them around with you, plus your luggage, plus a backpack that you've got all your computers and all your gadgets in there, and then your phone rings when you're walking through airports. You're like, I'm going to have to get that later.
So that's what you use, Bello? You use 15-pounders all the time?
I throw 15 pounds, yep. I used to, as you grow older, you obviously go up in weight, and I dabbled a little bit with a 16-pound, but found that the heavier ball was it was actually too powerful. It wouldn't strike because the rev rate, the speed, and then the extra weight of that ball was actually flying the pins over too high. I needed to keep them a little lower. So went back to 15, and I'll never change again.
Good stuff. And you're sponsored as well by Storm?
Yeah, I have a few different sponsors, and Storm is my bowling ball manufacturer. They create incredible bowling balls, and one of the unique things about those bowling balls is they have managed to put a incense inside the ball, so every ball smells like a flavour.
Yes,
so
nice.
You leave them in your car, and it's almost like you've got a beautiful waft of vanilla incense. Or
when you walk into the Orange Bowling Centre, you walk past the pro shop and you think it's a lolly shop, because I can't see. The first time I walked in, I said to my wife, I said, "Oh, is that a lolly shop there on the left?" No, that's the pro shop.
Yeah, try not lick the balls though, all right? When you're going in there, it's not good for you if you're trying to lick them.
And I've got one. I wear one of your Storm shirts very proudly on a Monday night in my league, but it hasn't done me any good yet. I haven't scored 300 yet.
Give it time. It's all in the shirt, all right? Let the shirt out. Get a little luck in there.
No worries, mate. We'll go on to another song. Did you have another question, Jamie, before we hit another song?
I'm going to give Belmo a little preview. I want to know about the sledging on the tour.
Yes.
I reckon there would be some, so
Yes,
give that some thought.
Give that some thought. So we'll get into Dear Future Husband, and then we'll be straight back with Jason Belmonte.
See all the stuff you do on Facebook with your mates, and different challenges and stuff.
Yeah, we have a bit of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I get into it. I used to sledge so much more by having a laugh. It wasn't like, right, but I mean, if you think about sledging from like the action point of view, Steve Smith's not saying something to James Anderson as a joke. He's like, he's giving him the business. But my Aussie humour over the US didn't fly over so well, no. So a lot of people thought I was serious, or that I was rude. I'm like,
So you're just making a couple of remarks.
That's all I ever did. From the first rookie year to the next year after, I was always joking with bowlers about, they bowl a bad shot, I'd have something funny to say. And they took it to heart. I'm like,
pick on them, so why would you wear that shirt? It's atrocious.
Only my close mates now, like I said. The humour... That's
great.
The humour doesn't quite, I don't think, translate. So like I said, I had a lot of friends in my first couple of years. Now, not so many, because everyone thought I was an idiot.
The one I was watching last night, I was saying that you just didn't like each other. The guy you beat in the semi-final to play Pete Webber, what was his, Steve, was it?
Yeah, you'll have to be a lot more specific. A lot of people don't like me over there.
No, not... Who's the guy that doesn't like Belmo, the one that I was watching last night?
Pete Webber. Success, or?
I think
Is it Pete Webber?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of success.
The one you beat in the semi-final to play Pete Webber.
Beat in the semi-final to beat.
I'm trying to think of his name. I only watched it yesterday.
I have to think about it a bit more. Like I said, the other thing was...
Someone Nash?
Sean Rash.
Yeah, Rash. Apparently,
he was the number one guy for a little while. Then
That explains why.
that's why he doesn't like you.
I think so. Yeah, he won't admit it, but I think that's the reason.
Is he American?
He is. Yeah.
Did that, that's a good tangent there. Did that sort of stuff, because being Aussie, you can sledge any one of us here and we're not going to bat an eyelid. Just go, cool.
Straight away, or
whatever. All it would do is actually open you up yourself,
Right.
because we go.
There you
Would have
go.
been
Yeah,
stuff
right.
like that. But over there, you might have thrown that out there and you get no humour, you get no love, and then all of a sudden they're hating on you.
And that's what happened. That's
Did that
exactly
spin
what
you
happened.
out a bit? Did that
It
take-
did. It affected me personally quite a lot because people who I considered friends, because I'd have a joke with them. I mean, most Aussies, with your friends, you're probably your harshest, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you throw that kind of humour out there and you tease them on a few different items, and then all of a sudden, you catch you walk into the players' room and you hear that particular guy just railing on you in conversation. You're like, oh, gee, I didn't expect that. I thought we were pretty good mates.
Has there been any heated moments?
Yeah. There's always heated moments, but
Geez, that'd be awesome.
yeah,
Does it pump you up? Do you get...
No, it doesn't really pump me up. It kind of makes me laugh because you kind of feel like you're at school again.
Yeah.
These are 30,
Grown men.
40-year-old men who are complaining about my success and things that I've said to them about their hair. And you're like,
Are you popular over there, mate, or they?
I'm popular more with fans than I am with my competitors. Put it that way.
That is a massive compliment.
Yeah, it is.
It
yeah.
just must have taken
It's
you a little while
lonely,
to
but it's
realise
also a compliment.
Yeah.
I know that the more that they hate, the more I've got to get better.
There's
so
a reason for it.
keep eating. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
So we'll come out of this song, Jamie, and then I'll just
all
we're,
good.
we're here with Jason and Jamie. You've got some questions.
Yeah, no more Jamie though, Matt. Just
Oh, okay.
no one's gonna know who you're talking about otherwise.
Were they?
No.
Oh,
Look
Mum
at
calls me
I'd
Stedo.
look at Jamie. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
no. Oh, now I know that. I won't say it.
Yeah, no, Mum calls me Stedo, so.
That's why I hate Matthew. I only ever get called Matthew for my wife if I'm in trouble. Feel very privileged, Malmo. I've skipped the 3 o'clock news.
Oh, well, if you want to run into it, I probably
it's
have to get out of here in the next, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes though.
Oh yes, your lips are moving there on 107.5 FM. Megan Trainer. What do you think of that one, Bello?
I had my feet tapping in here with that song.
Good stuff. Now we're still here with Jason Belmonte, the world #1 10-pin bowler, and we're very privileged to have him here today. And Stedo, you've got a couple more questions for Belmo before we go into these 11 that I prepared last night at about 11 o'clock last night, and we're going to hit him with those ones too.
It's good to know, Matt, that I'm not the only one that does last minute prep.
Yes.
Now, Belmo, I asked you before the song about some sledging. Now, I know being an Aussie, we all love a bit of a stir, a bit of a hassle. How heated does it get on the tour?
Well, I think that's probably been my biggest problem, is I like to think I have a very good sense of humour, and I like to throw a few punches as long as I get them back, and I was quite happy to tease a few boys in the US to start with and kind of taunt them and sledge them a little bit, and they didn't think it was funny. So I went from being quite popular amongst my competitors to the jerk who teases everyone, who's he's a bit rude and thinks he's above everyone. So it was a bit difficult to kind of explain, listen, I'm just joking, your hair is fine, okay? I'm just teasing you, it's nothing personal, I'm just having a laugh. So I've heard a few funny things and I've said a few funny things, but it usually gets me into trouble, so I tend to keep my head down a little bit more, and it seems to be helping me strike, so.
Yeah, cool. And the fans obviously tend to respond to you better than your competitors, and that's probably a backhanded compliment in a way.
Yeah, well, I don't want to I can't really compare how my fans are with me as they are with the other competitors, but I do value my fans a lot, and through my social networking in particular on Facebook, Twitter, you can follow me if you're looking
Now's
to...
your chance to give it a plug, Belmo.
Yeah, why not? Belmo fan page on Facebook, and it's at @jbelmo on Twitter and Instagram. So I try to interact with my fans as much as possible because I do value them quite a lot, and when I bowl in front of them, I tend to interact with them as much as I can as well. I want to be able to high five a few of the guys in the crowd and give away some bowling balls to the young kids that are watching, and
Nice.
you know, I tend to want to do that just because I think it'd be pretty cool if I went to a bowling event and followed someone and he gave me their ball. So
Yeah, it's a big deal. Mate, you were saying in the break you're a West Tigers fan, long suffering.
mate, long-suffering West Tigers fan. We have had some happy days throughout the years, but none better than when we won our last premiership. I actually changed my flight from Singapore to come home a day early because my dad, who is also a avid West Tigers fan,
Yeah.
we've got the game on this afternoon against
That's right.
Penrith. Well, Dad and I will be watching that for sure. But I ended up flying home early because Dad got his tickets to the grand final against the Cowboys, and I landed straight to the footy ground and ended up watching the game, and it was behind it was very close third behind my wedding and the birth of my two children, is seeing the boys lift the trophy up.
Nice.
So you went to the 2005 grand final.
I did, yep, and then we went to a little after party down at Belmonte afterwards and saw the boys lift the big trophy on the balcony, and we're basically hugging all these strangers. This is the greatest. We're going to win the next 3 premierships, we kept saying, and it's been
So
dark
that
days
basically
since.
answers my next question, Belmo, that it's a merge between West and Balmain, and you're obviously on the Balmain side.
Yeah, Dad was a Belmonte Tigers fan, grew up with Belmonte all in the house, and then when we merged, West Tigers fan all the way through. So I've got the jerseys, I follow the boys on Twitter, and I'm always into the boys when they play bad, I'm always into them when they play good. So
Do you tend to pick it up when you're overseas, try and catch games?
always, yep. In actual fact, I tend to, especially for the big games, but like, for example, State of Origin. I've been, 2 stories in particular. I was at a mate's house in the US, and I asked him if he could purchase the extra sports package. Just for that month. It was like an extra $9.95. I gave him $10 and said I want to watch it. Of course, the Blues lost that one, so it was a miserable time to wake up at 3 in the morning and watch that one. But then other times I've had Mum put the laptop in front of the big screen at home with Skype running. Yeah, I'm just watching Skype. It's not necessarily perfectly crystal clear, but the audio's good enough, and as long as I can hear Ray Rabs Warren going a little crazy when the Blues go in, I know what's going on.
And do you find many of your fans or your competitors actually have a bit of a clue about rugby league?
Only the Aussie guys, only the Aussie fans.
course.
The Americans think, rugby and rugby league is all a bit crazy with no pads and how hard the boys hit. And I try to explain to them that, their NFL guys are a little bit soft. Boys, you wear so many pads and so many helmets. I can't take you guys seriously. But I think the thing or the game that really puzzles them is cricket. They find it very difficult in the US to understand how a game can go for 5 days and end in a draw and still be riveting. To them, it just does not compute. So
Did you get into any other sports as a young bloke?
I was a big-time sportsman. I love my sports. I play a lot of squash, a bit of tennis. I dabble with the golf clubs here and there. Had a round this morning with the boys. We won't talk about that. Didn't hit them so good. But yeah, I love to play sport. Anything with a bat and a ball, or a ball in particular. Played soccer as a kid and rugby, for the state level. And I love to get outside and run around. It's a bit harder to recover now that I'm 31 years old.
Oh, you poor bugger.
I know, poor me. But I certainly love to play.
Oh, that's good, mate. Good.
That's about all from you, Stedo?
Yeah, I'm only going to annoy him if I keep asking you.
Yeah, no, he's got a dinner to go to, haven't you, Mel?
I gotta get home, watch the kids, help Kimberly with the kids, and we gotta go to the in-laws tonight for dinner. So make sure we get out there early, spend some time with them.
No worries, mate. Well, I've put together these questions here, and you've just got to bear with me because of my eyesight, but we'll get there. Mate, the first question I've got for you, apart from being married and having your kids, what is your proudest moment?
Behind the West Tigers winning the 05 Grand Final, I would probably say the day that I won the World Cup in South Africa, having my dad in the crowd watching. Just Dad and I flew to Johannesburg when I went to compete for the World Cup. It was my 3rd attempt. I'd come 2nd once and 5th another time. And when I threw that last delivery needing the strike to win. Got the strike, and I could hear Dad's voice amongst the crowd. It's such a unique,
He's
a
definitely got a
sound.
unique voice. You
So
always know him when he's there.
When he yelled out for the victory, I just looked around and saw him, and it was a very emotional thing for me to have my dad, who, he works so hard here in town and works long hours. He doesn't get to travel and watch me bowl nearly as much as I would like. So that's probably the most sentimental win that I have outside of anything to do with my family.
Mate, your favourite food?
If my grandparents are listening to my nonnas, it's your pasta. It's equal. Both of your pastas are the best food that I eat. Kimberly, if you're listening, it's your pumpkin risotto. It's delicious. And Mum, if you're listening, it's your lasagna.
Now, I've got another one here, Cody.
Worst habit.
What's your worst habit, Belmonte?
I bite my nails. Yeah, I stopped for a little while. I made a bet with my daughter Aria. She was a fingernail biter too, so I made a bet with her who can grow their nails the longest. And for a little while there, I was doing really well. And then we kind of forgot about the bet, and I started chewing them again. So I think I need to make another bet with her.
Mate, away from bowling, what do you do to relax?
I like to play with the kids. It's anyone who has children out there knows it can be difficult at times when they're tired or they're sick, but my children for 99.9% of the time are just, they're absolutely awesome little angels, and I just love to muck around with them. It's one of the reasons why I'm so happy. It's because of those two kids.
Your hardest opponent?
I think I'm my hardest opponent. I'm very critical of myself, and sometimes I can really, get down on a performance. So, if I'm pleasing my inner me when I'm bowling, then I'm bowling pretty well.
Another question here I've got, apart from Orange, apart from your hometown, where is your other favourite place to bowl?
Equal would probably be in Gothenburg, Sweden, and Las Vegas, Nevada. I think those two places are very, very cool for their own rights. Vegas is Vegas, so it's hard not to enjoy yourself in Vegas. And Sweden, the team that I bowl for in Sweden, it's called Pergamon. The boys are some of my best mates in the world, and the crowds that turn up to watch those matches they're insanely loud, and it's a lot of fun.
Your role model growing up as a youngster?
A bowling role model or just athlete?
In general.
In general,
Now, remembering there was a young chap that used to knock around at the bowling centre.
I'd probably have to say Warnie. Warnie was probably an idol growing up. He used to spin the ball. I used to try and curve the ball, and then once he got into a little trouble, tended to stay away from Warnie's advice and lent towards more Roger Federer. Roger has probably become my favourite athlete for a very long time now.
Well, in regards to Shane Warne, the very first time I saw you bowl, I called you the Shane Warne of tenpin bowling. The way you turn the ball. Now, mate, I've got another one here. You've already answered this one, basically. Other sports. You've already touched on rugby league.
Yeah, touched on those. Yeah, I played a lot. Liked them all.
What have we got here, Cody?
Where do you see yourself in 10
Where do you
years?
see yourself in 10 years?
Wow, that's a good question. I think my dad would want to see me working the bowl so he can retire. But that's not going to happen probably, Dad. I think I enjoy the game a little too much. So I would hope to see myself in the Hall of Fame in 10 years. Hall of Fame for bowling. Hopefully, still competing. Maybe not as much as I do now, but hopefully maybe still bowling a few of the majors. Probably coming home, helping Dad with the bowling centre, and spending a lot more time at home with the kids and Kimberly.
Good answer, mate. Cody?
If you weren't a pro bowler, what do you think you would be doing?
If I wasn't a pro bowler, I would be probably one of two things. Like I said, I'd probably be helping Dad at the bowling centre here in town, or I would be a movie critic.
A movie critic. So you love your movies?
I love my movies, yeah. Whenever I travel, I tend to, especially on those long plane rides, I love to turn on a movie to kind of, you sink away into it. It's you leave reality for 2.5 hours, and I generally come out of those movies very opinionated on those particular movies. So I think I would have done well as a critic.
Now, mate, I've left this last question, the best till last, the lucky last. Mate, as you're the world #1 tenpin bowler, any advice out there to a sportsman? It doesn't have to be a bowler that wants to get high up in any particular sport they're playing. What advice would you give them?
I would say that you're going to meet a lot of people along the way, And the more success that you have, the more that, you know, the people that are around you from a competitive point of view are going to try and bring you down and prevent you from reaching your goals and your dreams. So I would say that if you have a hater out there, you also have someone who loves you. It's up to you to get out of bed and work harder to prove to the ones that you love and to prove to the ones that hate you that you're capable of anything that you put your mind to. So I mean, you know, I'm from Orange, New South Wales. You know, I bowl a little bit differently, and you know, the Pro Tour in the US was a billion miles away, and yet I wanted to do it. I worked as hard as I could, and if I can do it, I assure you, anyone else who's just, you know, striving for their own goal, no matter what it is in life, business or sport or academically, you know, it's up to you. You've got to get out and do it.
You've got a wonderful mum and dad. I haven't met your siblings, but you've got a wonderful mum and dad, and obviously they've brought you up the right way, because there's a lot, I won't mention names, but there's a lot of world #1s in certain sports that are really up themselves and love themselves and all that sort of stuff, mate, but you're an absolute credit to Australia, and very proud of you.
I didn't pay him to say that either, everyone. That's
Mate, I just thought of one last question, mate. At your convenience, would you play one game of bowling with me down at Orange?
I can do that as long as we're betting something, mate. We can't just play for fun, all right? We've got to bet a drink. We've got to bet something at the end of it.
Well, I know I won't beat you, but I just want to have the privilege to have one game with you, mate.
Mate, it would be my honour. No worries at all.
No worries. All right then, well there you have it. Thank you very much, Jason Belmonte. We really do appreciate your time, and best of luck in the upcoming events over in Japan and all the other ones for this year, mate. Well done.
Matt, thanks a lot, Steno. Thanks a lot, too.
No worries. Thanks, Steno, as well, for you coming in, and we'll talk again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you have it. There's Jason Belmonte, a great sportsman, great bowler, and more importantly, a great bloke.
That eventually would like to change.
Do you want to get a song on?
Mate, no worries. Yeah, look, I'll listen to the show on Sundays now and listen to your weekly sports rap.
Yeah, well, we didn't really talk about local sport. Drum res is I'm too busy to track it.
Yeah.
And timing wise, so results are only be coming in within the next hour, like rugby.
Yeah, right.
So I can tell you about the rugby yesterday. Tell you about, I think what we'll do, my plan is just to talk about what's going on. And if, I mean, it could be your results next week.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Things like that. So that's kind of the direction I want to take it. If it gets opinionated and or we touch on stuff like that.
Yeah, good on you. I like listening to that. And I think that's the key, isn't it? Is not be afraid to say what you think about something, you know. In radio,
Oh, mate.
you can be general and you can be nice and you can be vague, but ultimately people want to hear your opinions. So.
Everybody wants to either agree or disagree. So if you can, if you can bowl
Alright, better
right.
get going. Thanks again, mate.
Thanks,
mate. No worries.
And I'll look forward to playing that game with you.
Mate, we'll team up. Don't worry, when I get home. Yeah.
That'll be good, mate. Thanks, mate.
They move all vehicles from a single car to
Righto.
a dealership.
You blokes want any more from me or am I out?
Probably that might do for today.
I think so, because we're a bit silly otherwise.
Yeah,
Of Power Plus Racing Fuels.
I've got a few songs. I've got a couple of songs coming on after this. So, what do you want to?
Well, my plan, Matt, is rather than, like, I can't get too specific locally.
No,
We can certainly touch on things like, I've got no problems touching on different local sporting subjects.
Yep.
But I think if we just talk topically
Yeah, that's what I
about what's
thought.
going on across the planet, mate, we'll just see where it takes us.
Yeah.
I don't want to come in with an agenda.
Yeah.
My plan is to just rock up, chat out. Hey, did you see that game the other night on blah blah blah? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
let's
we'll
talk
do it for about 10, 15 minutes.
Mate, I'm happy to probably give you a good half hour if that's what you want to do, and we'll just, as I said, let it take its course, mate. If we've talked and I'm out,
Yeah.
I'm out.
And we can do it. You can either come in or do it.
That was Jason Belmont.
Is it still on?
Yeah.
Jason Belmonte. I'm looking forward to him taking me on in one game of bowling. He's going to kick my ass, but it's going to be good.
It's gonna look good
You
too.
can kill it.
Join me next time on Gra-Lee Gaming.